In just the last few months, the Newcastle County Police have worked with the FBI to arrest a suspect who had both plans and weapons to carry out a mass shooting at the University of Delaware. Worked with DEA to investigate methamphetamine distributors. Worked with the Marshal Service to arrest a suspect with a warrant out for attempted murder. These are just a few brief examples. I have other topics to get to, but if each of you could just briefly tell me, what are your plans for strengthening your partnerships with local law enforcement, and what more do you need from Congress to execute on those plans? Director Patel.
Thank you, Senator. One thing we always need more of is data from state and local. Anything we can do from a legislative perspective at the federal state level to get us that data so we can ingest the data and get it back out to our partners, that's critical. What we're doing to expand specifically at the FBI, for the first time ever, we stood up our LEPIC, our Law Enforcement Partner Engagement Council. So I didn't want to just hear from police officers from around the country by email and phone call. I embedded 10 officers and sheriffs and tribal officers permanently at the FBI because they're the best connected. And so for us, that's the best way forward, along with getting out into the field and making sure our field partners see and feel us and touch us and tell us what their problems are.
Thank you, Director.
Senator, more connectivity to our state, local, and tribal partners is the utmost importance at DEA. Due with the significant change in the landscape with synthetic opioids, with more methamphetamine pills coming in, more cocaine coming in, it's important that those state and local counterparts, the men and women that are on the front lines every single day, have the same intelligence and the same information that the DEA does. Part of this is coming from our capacity to build foreign partnerships. The amount of foreign partnerships and people we have downrange in Mexico and Colombia, that intel is critical to the beat officer that's working in rural areas. So we have to continue to be better partners, continue to be more engaged, and respond when they call for help to address violent criminal activity.
Director Serralto, I'm going to interrupt myself. I appreciate the work that you and the Marshal Service do to keep federal judges safe, but there's thousands of state and local judges who don't have the same intelligence network, the same resources. I'm proud to co-sponsor a bill with Senator John Cornyn that would create a new state judicial threat intelligence and resource center. It would provide security assessments for local courts and help local law enforcement make assessments about how to keep judges' homes safe and how to keep court personnel safe. It's passed the Senate unanimously. Do you have any opinion about whether or not the House should take it up and whether or not partnering with state and local court systems would help advance judicial security in this country?
Senator, thank you. Thank you for your work on that. My opinion will be is that any judge that we can keep safe, whether it be in state or the federal bench, we should keep safe. To that end, I'll tell you, judges make decisions that are life-changing, sometimes to themselves. So 50% of the time, someone is upset with the judge's decision, right? Yep. Whether they win or lose. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. The justices, judges, the judiciary are the pillars of our country.
I look forward to working with you on protecting and promoting judicial security. Director Patel, reauthorization of Section 702 is something I've previously grappled with, but we've not heard at all from officials from the FBI or the other intelligence agencies testifying about the proposed 18-month clean extension. Were you invited by Chairman Grassley to testify before our committee about Section 702?
What I recall, Senator, is that we in the FBI team have been providing briefings pursuant to the chairman's request. So we've done at least a dozen in the Senate and at least half a dozen or more in the House, including myself and Director Ratcliffe personally.
Okay. I have not participated in or benefited from any of those briefings. And doing oversight on the reforms that were put in place and how closely they're being followed is critical to my concluding whether or not I'll vote for an extension. Director, I have to ask you one last question. You attended the Olympics in Milan. How much did your trip cost, and to what extent did that help you carry out your mission as director of the FBI?
I greatly appreciate the question, Senator. As you know, the FBI and DHS are responsible for the security of the Olympics, the World Cup, the F1, the Super Bowl, and everything else. We had 250,000 Americans travel to Milan. We're proud that we stood up our jock there and had 0 major security incidents involving American citizens. And what we did was we purposely planned that trip around the Olympics because, as I mentioned in my opening, the top cybercriminal from the CCP was housed in Italian custody. While there, we were able to work an arrangement to have that individual expelled from Italy instead of going back to China, like has so often happened in places like Serbia. And so we accomplished that mission, and we kept it quiet, and that individual was returned to America 2 weeks ago.
I was concerned that just before we went to war with Iran, a whole group of FBI agents were terminated, about 10, who were reportedly analysts with expertise in handling Iranian counterterrorism, fluent in Farsi, long experienced. I know there's ongoing litigation, but have you replaced them? Was there a reason for their dismissal? Do we have the capabilities we need to protect the United States while there's an ongoing war in Iran? The public reporting as to the reasons for their dismissal I found deeply troubling.
Well, as I've addressed earlier, I don't believe the public reporting is accurate. What we did do for the first time in FBI history is stand up the Iran Threats Mission Center. That is housed inside the FBI with our Iran experts, including intelligence and analysts and agents, and we have seen a 47% increase in the arrest of Iranian spies.
Do you disagree that there were 10 Iran specialists dismissed right before the war began?
Yes.
Senator Coons did not expect the answers he received, but he certainly knew the traps he was setting. What began as a standard, predictable nod to National Police Week quickly transformed into a sharp, calculated cross-examination of FBI Director Kash Patel. The exchange exposed a massive, high-stakes institutional battle occurring behind closed doors, one where classified surveillance powers, international operations, and wartime counterintelligence personnel are being fiercely contested. To understand why Senator Coons shifted so abruptly from local law enforcement praise to aggressive questioning, you have to look at his background. Coons is a seasoned member of the Senate Judiciary and Appropriations Committees, with deep roots in local administration as a former Delaware County executive. He doesn't view federal agencies in isolation, he views them through the lens of institutional process, compliance, and strict statutory boundaries. When he confronts the head of the nation's premier domestic intelligence agency, he isn't looking for broad rhetorical assurances. He is hunting for procedural gaps and operational inconsistencies. The true flashpoint of this hearing centered on the explosive allegation that the FBI terminated roughly 10 elite Iranian counterterrorism analysts and Farsi-fluent specialists right on the eve of an active conflict with Iran. This is not a minor bureaucratic shuffle, it touches the absolute core of national security. In high-stakes geopolitical standoffs, specialized analysts who understand regional nuances, command language fluency, and manage active human intelligence networks cannot simply be replaced overnight. Director Patel's defense was strategic. He flatly denied the accuracy of the public reporting and pointed instead to the creation of the Iran Threats Mission Center, claiming a 47% increase in the arrest of Iranian spies. But by avoiding a direct answer regarding the specific personnel actions affecting those 10 analysts, Patel left a massive question hanging in the room. In congressional oversight, what an official chooses not to say often carries far more weight than their prepared statistics. Coons' focus on this detail was designed to signal a profound worry that institutional disruption and political friction within the Bureau might be actively degrading America's frontline defense capabilities at the worst possible moment. This underlying tension bled directly into the confrontation over Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. Section 702 is one of the most powerful and controversial surveillance tools in the U.S. intelligence toolkit, allowing the government to intercept foreign communications without a traditional warrant. The debate over its reauthorization, specifically regarding a clean 18-month extension, is a constitutional minefield. When Coons pressed Patel on why members of the committee had not been comprehensively briefed on recent compliance reforms, he was highlighting a structural breakdown in congressional oversight. Patel argued that his team had conducted dozens of briefings for leadership and specific chairmen. But Coons' blunt response, that he had neither participated in nor benefited from those sessions, laid bare a widening gap between the executive branch's internal operations and the lawmakers tasked with holding them accountable. For a senator, voting blindly on the extension of sweeping surveillance powers without empirical proof of reform compliance is an absolute non-starter. The confrontation took an even more personal turn when Coons targeted Patel's recent official travel to the Milan Olympics, demanding a justification of the cost and its direct relevance to the FBI's mission. In the theater of political oversight, public officials traveling to high-profile international sporting events always draws intense scrutiny. Patel sought to diffuse the optics by revealing a major, previously quiet operational victory: the successful navigation of an agreement with Italian authorities to secure the custody and expulsion of a top Chinese Communist Party (CCP) cybercriminal, preventing his return to Beijing. By framing the trip around a critical counterintelligence win rather than simple administrative presence, Patel attempted to neutralize the criticism. Yet, the sequence of Coons' questions painted a broader, more biting narrative for the public record. A portrait of an agency head navigating intense scrutiny over luxurious international travel and internal staffing purges, even as the nation faces compounding threats from both China and Iran. Ultimately, this hearing pulled back the curtain on a deeply fractured system of governance. It demonstrated that modern legislative oversight is no longer just about allocating dollars or rubber-stamping agency budgets. It is an ongoing, aggressive tug-of-war over transparency, legal authority, and institutional integrity. Coons used his time to establish a permanent legislative marker, making it clear that the Senate will not quietly accept systemic personnel changes or opaque intelligence operations without a fight. But what do you think? Was Director Patel justified in reorganizing his counterintelligence teams to push for higher arrest metrics, or did purging veteran regional analysts right before a conflict put national security at risk? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. To support our mission of breaking down these critical oversight archives and holding powerful institutions accountable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel right now. Thank you for watching.